You want to play with me? Oh boy.
What comes to mind when I say point-and-click adventure game? Does your mind rush to the colorful nostalgia of early childhood education games? Does it rush to text-based adventure titles like The Secret of Monkey Island? Or does your mind wander towards more disturbing releases? Garage Bad Dream Adventure fits perfectly into that description. A 1999 Japanese point-and-click adventure game that throws us into a bizarre world with outlandish visuals and unsightly characters. But what is it all about? What kind of story could a game like this tell? What kind of world could warrant such abrasive visuals? Today, we're going to be immersing ourselves into an entirely new way of life to answer those questions. Living in a town and meeting its various residents. Building friendships and romantic relationships. Finding work-life balance. Making money, trading, upgrading our robotic body. And of course, finding out how we ended up here and how the hell we're supposed to get out. 40301, and this is Garage Bad Dream Adventure. So how did I find this game? It's not the craziest story by any means. Finding screenshots, saving them, and writing them off as just interesting artwork, or one of those games that don't exist. Until I realized that a lot of what I was saving shared the same art style, with a common name between them. All it takes is one Google search and we find exactly what we're looking for. Keywords start to stand out. Windows 98, Japanese Windows games, 1999. Garage is a surreal and nightmarish point-and-click adventure set in a world full of biomechanical machines. That's quite the description. On archive.org, we can find a number of promotional artwork, including the original box art, game manual, CD-ROM, and more. But I don't need any more convincing. Let's fire it up. Now, getting a PC game from the 1990s to work properly on a modern machine is often a complicated endeavor. Me being an exceptionally lazy person, I really don't want to spend the time to figure out exactly what the problem is. But I don't have to, because in 2022, the game was remastered and brought to not only Steam, but to Nintendo Switch, the Apple App Store, and the Google Play Store. There are playthroughs of the original Japanese release and its fan translations. You're just not gonna get it from me. This is Garage. Please sit there. Alright, that'll be fine. You may experience severe dizziness at first, but please bear with it. Your name? Yes, Mr. Yang. Well, Mr. Yang, are you ready? Are you worried? You'll be just fine. Trust Garage. You should be able to get what you desire. We begin our journey waking up in a dark room. Flipping the switch on the wall, we reveal ourselves, staring at our own reflection in a dirty mirror. We are a strange machine with large eyes and a bulbous head. Various notes present themselves. Something about finding a shadow, someone named Psyche, something about a floodgate, and someone named Lao. The letter on the desk is addressed directly to us, telling us that we were found floating in sewage water and drifted in front of this house. We are advised to 1. Speak to the next door neighbor, Hajime, 2. To visit the ego clinic and fix this low meter here, and 3. To find our shadow, whatever the hell that's supposed to mean. Signed, Shen. On the back of the letter is a message so strange it sounds wrong. One more thing. Feel free to use the bottle trap in the room. You won't get anywhere in this world unless you set a bottle trap on a winch and catch a crab first. Now, what on earth is this bizarre string of words supposed to even mean? We'll find that out soon enough. On the right is a broken music box, with another note asking for a Mr. Balcanero to fix it. On the lower left are 450 Milky Fuel Station stamps, which we can safely assume is some sort of currency. On the far left is a typewriter which we can use to save our progress. However, we currently cannot because of our low ego level, indicated by this meter here. Stepping back from the desk, we can see more of the room. Various items placed around. A fishing pole, portable Milky Fuel which we can use to refuel ourselves on the go, the bottle trap mentioned in Shen's letter, and lastly, a switch code box, of which we do not have the code for. Now, let's get to know our interface. At the top left is our status menu, listing all of our stats, from fuel capacity to how far we've traveled. Beside it, the character menu gives us a better look at ourselves, and in the future will display any upgrades to our body. Below the status menu is our inventory, and below that is our map, displaying this overwhelmingly complex overview of our little town here, displaying up to 3 levels of elevation. It looks a lot more intimidating than it is. Every track is a path that can be taken, and every red light is a stopping point that can be used to change directions. The stamp counter keeps track of how many we have. This clock in the upper right indicates the progression of time and doesn't stop for anything. This counter here indicates how many times the clock's hand has passed 0, called a lap. The ego meter displays our ego level, responsible for our consciousness and ability to speak. Without any ego, we're just a cold, soulless machine. The fuel meter is just that. If either of these meters reach 0, we die, whatever death means in this world. Below these meters is a log menu, which can be used to track our conversations, and we all know what a menu button is. Now let's go see our next door neighbor. This is Hajime, the oldest machine in town and possibly the first, which would fit his name, Hajime, which means beginning. He tells us that we are word lost and directs us toward the ego clinic, just past the carousel. Arriving at the ego clinic, we speak to Gimnon, the machine at the desk. He gives us 2 options with 2 prices to recover our ego. The carousel, which can be ridden to slowly replenish one's ego level, or the cheaper, less fun option of using one of the 3 ego recovery machines. Now that we're fully recovered, it's time to get some answers. What is this place? Why are we here? Who is Shen? And what the hell does find your shadow mean? The only one who would seem to have any answer for us is this Psyche, so we start asking around. Gimnon says that we shouldn't look for Psyche. He tells us to just leave everything as it is, explaining that we have female machines and frogs, so life is good as it is. What a bizarre statement. Hajime, on the other hand, gives us a straight answer. He knows of Psyche, describing her as smooth and soft, a description fit for an organic being, not a machine. He then tells us that she's friends with Yang, the owner of the Milky Fuel Station, the station where all machines go to refuel themselves. So, I guess we aren't this Yang person then. Hajime then tells us to visit the Milky Fuel Station's second location and talk to the owner, Lee, to learn more about Psyche. So we do. We don't need to refuel, so we won't bother. Heading towards the back of the counter, we come face to face with Liz, the female machine at this fuel station. She tells us that we can't see her without paying at the counter first. So, next time, I guess. We head inside to speak with Lee about Psyche, and instead of telling us what we want to know, he opts to inform us about how female machines make milky fuel, which is actually very important in understanding how this world works. I'll explain in a moment. Lee tells us that in the town, there's a shortage of crabs, and asks us to bring him 50 crabs, and then he'll tell us what he knows about Psyche. But what's with the need for crabs? You see, this entire place is a stilt town. It's held on stilts above a body of water, sewage water. In this sewage water swims an ecosystem of bizarre-looking crabs and frogs. The amount of sewage water in town has decreased for some reason, causing the shortage Lee mentioned. Male machines fish these crabs and frogs from the sewage, like our friend Takashi here, an avid fisherman who teaches us how to fish. A simple enough push and pull minigame. Pick your bait, pick your hook, cast your line, wait for a bite, and the tug-of-war begins. Crabs and frogs are either traded for stamps or fed to female machines. The ladies prefer the frogs over the crabs. They ferment the small creatures in their stomachs to produce milky fuel for themselves, dispense milky fuel for male machines, and produce sewage as a byproduct. This is why Lee's requesting 50 crabs. 50 mighty claws to be specific. They're for Liz. More bluntly, they're for the fuel station. There's no need to fish to get them. We just need to lower the bottle trap we got from Shen's room on one of these winch devices, of which there are dozens around town. This is gonna take a while, so why don't we go ahead and take a stroll around town, see the sights, and meet the locals. Across the street from our room are more of our neighbors. Honda, a bogie mechanic. Bogie being the framed set of wheels that trains and rail carts use to roll along tracks. The same thing we and everyone here use to get around. Honda examines ours and notices that our lathe chuck is broken, a metal device that holds rotating bits securely in place. He says if we find one, he'll help us install it onto our body. Deeper into the factory is Enu-san, Honda's wife. She enjoys mysterious things. I believe there are special bottle traps we can use to catch mysterious objects or creatures. Bringing them to Enu-san may trigger something, though I never did this during any of my playthroughs. Across the way is Mia. He doesn't speak. In the other room is his wife, Suru, who encourages us to fish and feed female machines to make them happy. Down this dark hall we can find Noom, who warns us of the press machines. Giant crushing machines blocking access to a third of the town. But for what? And why such an aggressive measure? This is the main Milky fuel station, home to 3 female machines, Michio, Raiko, and Shan. These ladies don't speak much, only greeting us and saying goodbye. This is the Seryu apartment building where various machines reside. The factory workers, Tasan, Hasan, and Asan. The department store workers, Gonbe, Jirobe, Torlop, and Yoshibe. As well as the apartment manager, who doesn't answer his door. They all have clocks by their doors, indicating the times they will allow visitors. Come at the wrong time, and you will be waiting. This hallway is a bridge to the second floor of the Fukuju apartment, the apartment building out back and across the street. 3 machines live on this floor: Han, Lekyu, who is usually asleep, and our fisherman friend Takashi, who sells frogs and fishing equipment. The first floor of the Fukuju has to be accessed from the front door, as it's cut off from the second floor by a faulty lift. A lone female machine I like to call Lady Chio resides on the first floor. Down this way is the Balkanero Toy Works, where we can find Mr. Balkanero, which is good. We can deliver that broken music box that Shen needed him to fix. Being his handiwork, he happily accepts the job, and tells us to come back after 3 laps on the clock. Down the street is the Maruya department store, where some of the robots from the Seryu work. On the second floor, there's Gonbe's fishing tackle store, where we can buy fishing equipment and fishing information on frogs. Jirobe's drugstore, where we can purchase recovery items for ego and fuel. Yoshibe's store, where we can buy amenities for our room. And then there's Torlop's junk shop, where we can buy parts we may need for upgrades. On the third floor is Moriwaki Customs. This is where we can have Moriwaki here install parts to upgrade our body. Across from the second fuel station is Seeger Specimen Trading, where we can exchange frogs and crabs for stamps. We will be visiting this place often over the course of our time here, as things we need become more and more expensive. After some time, we return to Balkanero to retrieve the fixed music box, and he gives us his music score, a sheet of paper with various holes punched into it, to be fed through the hand crank music box to play a tune. And yes, if you didn't know, this is a real thing. We tell Balkanero about our broken lathe chuck predicament, and he kindly offers us his spare. Bringing it to Honda, he installs it into our frame, increasing our fuel efficiency. As we've been exploring the town, I've been checking the bottle trap a few times. We now have Lee's 50 crabs, and we also need to refuel. So we pay at the counter and approach Liz, who recognizes that this is our first time, so she guides us through it. First, we need to open the lid on our stomach. Then, we insert our output shaft and stir the inside. Simple enough. Handing the crabs over, Lee finally opens up about Psyche, telling us where she is. Psyche is at the lighthouse in the restricted area, the area that's beyond the press machines. The only way to get there safely is taking this elevator in the Serio apartment and taking a cable car that leads us to the laboratory locked behind this door. The only way to get to the lighthouse is through the laboratory, and just by looking at it, I think that it's easy to figure out that a key is not going to open this door. No, what we're going to need is music. I'm not kidding. Playing a song for the door with our newly fixed music box will unlock it. But the score that we got from Balkanero doesn't work. So there must be some other score around here that opens this. Tassan, one of the factory workers next door, should be able to help us. He's a bit of a strange fellow. He's forgetful and not really good at forming sentences. At first, he's no help. But after talking to a few others, we're led to Lady Chio, who suggests that we remind Tassan of his longtime friend, Doku, to jog his memory. A machine described as having one body, but being two. Maybe some sort of machine with two personalities. Strange. Reminding Tassan of his friend does jog his memory of something called the Sheep Song, a key. Now that we know what we're looking for, let's find it and open this damn door. There isn't anywhere we can buy music scores, and while Balkanero did make the music box we have, he's just a toy maker, not a musician. Hajime informs us that the Fukuju apartment building used to be a printing press, and that the owner is still around. That owner being Han, who explains that this place has ran out of paper and had ran out of the means to make more a long time ago. Many posters have been reused to have something new printed on top of the old. Han thinks that the paper the Sheep Song is printed on may have been repurposed, and suggests that we speak to a certain machine who enjoys collecting posters. A machine with eyes that look like this. Right. Torlop, a poster enthusiast with whom you can trade posters for items. But of course he doesn't have the Sheep Song in his collection, that's just our luck. He does tell us that some poster boards have been covered up by newer construction, meaning that the Sheep Song may be on one of these covered poster boards. Torlop suggests that we speak to the town's builder, Mia, who, as we already know, doesn't do the speaking thing for some reason. However, asking his wife, Suru, gives us our answer. She seems to understand what our goal is. She hands us an old blueprint highlighting the location of the hidden poster board. It's strange how specific this is. It's like it's the only poster board that's been covered up to hide the Sheep Song and keep the laboratory door shut. The old blueprint matches up with the Fukuju apartment. The damn poster board was hidden right here the whole time. Hidden under all these strange promotional posters, we find the score, printed over just like we were told it may be. Finally. Entering the laboratory, we pass a busy machine, Koppel, who simply says to us, "What I do is none of your business. What you do is none of my business." Continuing deeper into the lab, we find another machine, Ein, who says to us, "Oh, it's you." Why the hell is everyone talking like they know us? As far as we're concerned, we may as well have been born not too long ago. In the back, we find both machines' rooms. In Koppel's room, we find notes on sewage and ego recovery liquid. Ego recovery liquid is created by purifying sewage, so the maintaining of everyone's ego levels across town is also a contributing factor to the overall low level of sewage in the area. In Ein's room, we find notes on what shadows are. They are a sort of alter ego, our other half. They are brought into this world with us, and if left alone, they will eventually disappear or evaporate. There's not too much info here, but it's clear that the shadows aren't exactly of this world. And if that's the case, then finding our shadow has to be our way out of here. Wherever the hell here is. Just like Shen's note said, Psyche has to know something about this. She's here somewhere. This is not what I was expecting to walk into. What we have here are 3 shadows, specifically the shadows of the 3 female machines of the Milky Fuel Station, Michio, Raiko, and Shan. Michio's shadow, presented gruesomely missing the lower half of her form. She is afraid of us. Raiko's shadow, her body bent backwards onto itself. She calls us a puppet. And Shan's shadow, a legless skeleton, tells us that we don't need to know. Just what the hell is actually going on here? Over this way is another locked door, requiring some other music score to open it. Down the elevator is yet another music locked door, with some stamps just sitting here on the floor for the taking. And I'm taking. Taking the elevator back up, we make our way to the top floor of the lighthouse, where we can find the one we've been looking for all this time. Psyche, a shadow herself, the most powerful shadow in this world, made clear by how intact her body is compared to the others, and how well known she is around town. She's been expecting us, and is probably the reason everyone already knows about us. She knows that we seek our own shadow, and is already tracking it down. In the meantime, she requests that we find her dream diary, and hands us a letter to give to Viz, the Seriu apartment manager. At the back of the lab, we can find a set of 3 steam valves labeled Bridge, Press 1, and Press 2. Messing with the valve handles in just the right way allows us to cut the power to the press machines, clearing the way for us to travel to and from the lab without needing to use the cable car. Now, we're off to deliver Psyche's letter to the Seriu apartment manager, Viz. Sliding Psyche's letter through Viz's door, he finally makes an appearance. He gives us the key to room 8 and tells us that the machine we're looking for is called Chen, the one who has Psyche's diary. Room 8 is on the top floor, isolated from the rest, possibly Psyche's old room, or the old room of her alternate machine form. We used the telescope Psyche gave us to scout an area we can only see from the window in this room. Chen only shows up at a certain time on the clock, and it looks like we're right on time. We track him as he takes an elevator somewhere. It looks like he used this mechanism before taking the elevator. Taking a closer look reveals that the mechanism needs a code to be operated. We take note of the code that was just inputted and move to find this area. I have a question. The last time we rolled into the 3rd floor of the department store, did anyone notice this track that just leads right into this wall? That's because it's not a wall. It's a door that leads to the area we're looking for. Here's the mechanism. We enter the code and pull the lever, bringing the elevator to us. We take the elevator down and follow after Chen. Following this path, we are brought to the New World. A bizarre name for a movie theater. That's what this is. The strange flyers that we've seen are ads for shows that took place here. Inside, we can find only one machine, Chen, who recognizes us but says that we've completely changed, implying that he's known us in some other form. Okay. We ask for Psyche's dream diary, but Chen insists that he only has the diary of a machine named Juice. Chen thinks that it's probably what Psyche's looking for. Maybe Juice is the name of Psyche's alter ego, her machine form. But of course, no one hands things over for free in this world, so Chen makes a request for something called Firestream liquid in exchange for the diary, the ingredients of which are located in the farthest room of the factory. Tinkering with the valves from before in the right way gives power to the bridge, while keeping the press machines off. Taking the bridge into the warehouse, we find the mixing stand we'll use to make the liquid. The ingredients include ammonia, vitriol oil, and something called Gyperi-A-Cogsina. Yeah, that. This note details on how Firestream liquid is highly efficient fuel made by Koppel. The problem is that when it's added to milky fuel, the burning power triples and it destroys its user. The ammonia and vitriol oil can be found on these shelves, along with many other chemicals. The other ingredient has to be extracted from 20 Gadus, the lowest level of frog in this world. So if you don't already have them, you'll need to do some fishing. Koppel extracts the chemical from the Gadus, and we use everything to create the Firestream liquid. Returning to Chen, we give him his damn liquid. I'll take that diary now. In the diary, Psyche notes down a dream in which she is covered in slime and is repeatedly insulted, called a maggot, and Psyche agrees with her insulters enthusiastically. She apologizes, but is not forgiven. We return the diary to Psyche, and she's found our shadow. It's located in the sewage canal north of the department store, and we're going to need a boat to get there. And so, we set off to find a boat. Michio's shadow begs us to stop what we're doing. Raiko's shadow again calls us a puppet, implying that we are not acting of our own free will. Shan's shadow tells us that the answers we seek are dangerous and encourages us to stop seeking. But we don't belong here. This isn't our home. It can't be. Our very existence is a question that demands an answer, and we're getting answers. Hajime tells us about a machine named Lou, a friend of Viz. She had a boat. She now lives at the back of the ego clinic. Speaking to Gimnon, he tells us that he is not allowed to let unauthorized people enter Lou's room, and then proceeds to, as per usual in this town, ask a favor, and in return, he'll let us see Lou. He requests that we catch him a rare frog, a crab eater, and he hands us the fishing information, showing what bait we need to use and where the frog is commonly found. What Gimnon doesn't know is that we are not gonna waste our time trying to find and catch this frog. We will instead just buy one off of our fisherman friend Takashi here and bring it back. Gimnon takes it, planning to use the frog to impress Raiko. He happily shows us to Lou's room. Gimnon leads us to the back 3 rooms, but what the fuck is so funny? The first door, Doku, Ta-san's old friend, the machine with 1 body, but is 2. The second door, Bem, a machine suffering from what looks like a horrible skin condition. The third door is Lou. Now, I won't be showing what's happening in this room when we open the door, as what's happening seems to be unconsensual, and while I can't exactly be sure what I've walked into, the implications are not good. In this room, we find Lou. She hardly looks at us. She doesn't speak to us. We only have the option to play music for her. After playing her a music score, she'll give us a wingnut, telling us to give it to Viz as some sort of sign or message. Lou gives additional items for every music score you play for her. Bringing Viz the wingnut, he is surprised and invites us inside for the first time. We tell him that we need to use Lou's boat, and he directs us to it, seeing us having the wingnut as permission from Lou. Heading down to Lou's old room, we find her boat and take it out on the sewage. Now we are below the town. The map is useless to us down here. For now, we're left to navigate in the blind. To the right, we can find a journal written by Lou, stating how much she prefers being by herself, how she prefers being down here in the canal, and how she's found someone's shadow, calling it a poor thing. Roaming around aimlessly leads us to multiple dead ends, but down one of these paths, we can find this track. It actually leads right back to our room. That's right, this backyard area was always here. Continuing on in the boat, we eventually come across Lou's old map of the canal, showing points of interest as dots: Lou's old room, Lou's notes, and the lift to our room. The rest of the map is cut off here. I figured out the hard way that the paths are the lines and not the negative space between them. After exhausting all of our options, the forks in the road stop, and we're led down a single path, a path that leads to our shadow. Not like the others we've seen, preserved in incubators. Ours is ugly, more corpse-like than any of the others due to being exposed to the inhospitable environment that is this place. This place really isn't suitable for anything that's not a machine. Our shadow begs us not to erase it, calling us Yang before realizing that we are not him. We explain that we are both the same, and then it requests that we find its sneakers. Wait. From what we saw in the intro cutscene, wouldn't Yang be the one looking for sneakers? Returning to Viz to tell him what we found, he suggests that we talk to a machine named Guattari, as he should know more about shadows. The way we get to Guattari is by taking the factory lift to the dead track. Now, after upgrading our body over the course of our time here, we've acquired enough fuel capacity to use the high-powered elevator. And while we do have the power, we should always make sure that we have enough fuel to last the elevator ride, or else we'll literally just die on the elevator. We make it to the dead track and follow it all the way to this lonely shack, where we can find Guattari, a former laboratory worker who has decided to seclude himself far, far away from everyone else. We tell him about our shadow and its strange request for us to find sneakers. Guattari tells us that the sneakers are our core memory, something that came into this world with our shadow. The shadows have their original world, and then there is this world. A core memory is a sort of bridge between those worlds. If we can find the sneakers and return them to our shadow, it will regain its memory. Guattari gives us a dowsing compass, a device that should help us find the sneakers. He also gives us a chronicle of the Milky Fuel Station, a document that tells of Yang and how this world has changed because of him. Here are the major takeaways. Yang is a powerful machine, born with an incredibly high ego level. Yang hunted female machines and is the reason for their small numbers today. He used the music box as a weapon by attaching something called a resonator to it. Yang's hunting of female machines created a huge problem for the entire town. Like I explained before, the sewage the town is held above is a byproduct of female machines creating milky fuel from frogs and crabs. Less female machines means less sewage. Less sewage means less crabs and frogs. Less crabs and frogs means less milky fuel, and the demand for that isn't going anywhere. Yang met a female machine named Juice, who, like him, could withstand his use of the music box, because she had an even higher ego level than Yang. Because of her high ego level, it's very unlikely that Juice would ever fall apart. Knowing this, Yang seized the opportunity to use Juice as a solution to the sewage problem he created, using the dismantled parts from his female machine victims to modify Juice, transforming her into the ultimate milky fuel production machine, and on the other side of the coin, the ultimate sewage production machine. Juice also has a shadow, Psyche. Yang had Michio, Raiko, and Shan's memories erased and placed them as a front for the Milky Fuel Station. This alone is probably enough explanation on why they don't speak much. Yang needed them to be obedient and stay at the fuel station as cover for Juice's modified existence, so no one would wonder where all the fuel is coming from. And having the fuel station be all they ever knew would do just that. Meeting Juice was enough to stop Yang from hunting more females and move on to hunting shadows, gathering and destroying them on the stage of the New World. This was the Shadow Murder Show, a clip of which can be found in the projector at the New World Theater. And promotion for the show can be found on poster boards all over town. There is also a mention of the Floodgate, and that its installation has blocked access to something called the Imprinting Stone, something shadows need to exist. The fact that this stone is out of reach is probably why the Lady Shadows are being kept in incubators, to preserve their existence while unable to reach the stone. One thing's for sure, Yang is a fucking monster whose actions are confusing, akin to a madman just lashing out. Like, why do all this? Oh yeah, this here is Guattari's wife, Yoko. Partly dismantled, she still works, but is no longer conscious. This is the best example of what happens to us if our ego level runs dry. We become just a machine, a thing to be used. Guattari keeps her around because that's all that's left of his partner. Now we head back to town to make use of this dowsing compass, find the sneakers, our core memory, return them to our shadow, and we should be one step closer to leaving this place. I mean, that's our goal, right? To leave? We're running low on fuel. Michio has the sudden urge to tell us something, saying that she's never felt like this before. After refueling with her for some time now, she asks if she could stay with us at our home. We're able to give an answer the next time we come to see her. Saying yes to her request will have her remove herself from the fuel station to come live with us, essentially making her our new partner, like Enu-san is to Honda and like Tsuru is to Mia. We can feed her crabs and frogs, raising her affection level as she shares her feelings and stories with us. This also means that she will become our personal supply of milky fuel, removing our need to pay at the fuel station. This scenario can happen with any of the girls at the fuel station, whichever one you refuel with the most. Taking any of the fuel station girls home brings you to alternate endings. Endings that you won't be seeing in this video. The dowsing compass Guattari gave us senses something over at the New World Theater. Arriving there, we get a better look at exactly where our core memory is. It's backstage, but we have no way to raise the screen to get back there. Speaking with Lady Chio, we find out what we need to do. You're Yang, aren't you? I mean, to be honest, with everything that we've been noticing so far, Mr. Yang being the first name we hear before waking up in this world, people acting as if they've seen us before, I'd say yes. We and Yang seem to be the same. But why are we split into 3 different entities? 2 machines and a shadow. Yang planned to erase our shadow for a show at the New World Theater, but it escaped. That explains why we found it where we did, afraid that we were gonna erase it, calling us Yang on sight. Chio tells us that the key to lift the screen is hidden behind one of the mirrors in this back room. We find it and use it to raise the screen, giving us access to the back room, where we finally find our core memory, our sneakers. The thing that's existence probably had you confused the entire video, along with some phishing info, hooks, and Yang's dream diary, in which he describes what it's like to walk in these shoes. Finally returning our core memory to our shadow, it starts to get a headache and says that something's missing. It says that it has to go before briefly transforming into something that looks more human. And just like that, without a fucking explanation or so much as a thank you, the damn thing runs off. Reporting back to Guattari, he tells us that our shadow has gone to look for the imprinting stone, an object that strengthens the core memory and creates something called a paradox hole, an opening that connects the shadow's world with this world. That sounds like our way out of here. The imprinting stone is beyond the floodgate, but we have no idea where the floodgate even is. Guattari suggests that we go see Yang, saying that if we can get rid of him, we should be able to open the floodgate and get to our shadow. Unlike the lady shadows, our shadow was probably able to get to the stone due to the new form it took on just before leaving us. Before we left, Guattari gave us the code to the locked box in our room. Using the code to open the box, we find another score, the noise score, and Shen's journal, documenting his thoughts from his very first days in this world. Just like us, he began his time here lost and confused. He notes down that something called a resonator needs to be attached to the music box to be able to play the noise score. Doing this turns the music box into a weapon. Shen also notes that Ein was the last machine to have the resonator. The rest of this journal is Shen fighting with his identity and the existence of this world, saying that this world is just his fantasy. I'm not exactly sure what to think of someone who fantasizes about a world like this, but I don't get paid to judge, so. Now, I assume that we need the noise score to open the door that Yang's been sealed behind. So that's our next objective. We're gonna need that resonator. Where the fuck is Liz? She's gone.
It wasn't me.
Lee says that he's dismantled Liz at her own request. She begged him to do it. Why would she want to? Lee's gone. The sound we just heard was the same sound we heard when Chen died in front of us. It's the sound of a dead machine disappearing forever. And this fuel station is now abandoned. We are now able to reach some of the station's drawers. The wide drawer is locked. The small drawer, however, has all of the stamps this station has made. And since the owners are dead, and there's no one to claim the stamps, we take them. And the factory workers, their rooms are empty. The factory is empty. So the only conclusion is that they are also gone now. But why? Asking Ein about the resonator, he says that the time has come, and describes himself as a tool for Yang's wishes. And as if fulfilling a prophecy, he hands us the resonator. Michio's shadow says that our pasts are linked, but doesn't explain how or why. Raiko's shadow tells us that we are trying to forget our past, and that she wants no such thing for herself. Shan's shadow describes this world as a fixed point in the past, or that's what it's supposed to be. Psyche tells us that she does not have the answer to what we want, and calls Yang a poor child. The lady's words are vague as usual, but every time I speak to them, I can't help the feeling that I'm the bad guy here. But there's nowhere to go but forward, towards answers. It's time to open the door. The noise score is a long sheet of ear torture, so much so that it rapidly drains our ego level. If we had not upgraded our ego capacity at Moriwaki's workshop, we would surely die while using this. The door opens, and we are now face to face with ourself, and we are lost for words. Literally, the noise score draining our ego level has the chance to leave us once again word lost. So we need to be sure to refuel our ego level before trying to talk with him, so he can explain himself. And he explains everything. This machine is the original Yang, the one everyone speaks about, the one we read about. We are an alter ego created from Yang's excessive ego level, and he himself threw us into the sewage, like garbage. But us splitting from Yang caused a new personality to form within him, named Shen. Shen saved us from the sewage and placed us at his home, where we found the notes that led us here. To be clear, we are a clone of Yang, and Yang himself has two personalities, like Two-Face. Shen wants to destroy Yang. Shen explains this in a manner that suggests that he's happy to see us. But that doesn't last long. The tone shifts, and Yang overtakes Shen. He definitively calls himself Yang, and says that hearing the noise score has brought back his memories.
I regret saving you.
He asks us if we're going to try to destroy him with the noise score. While Shen seems to be on our side, Yang is still the monster who caused so much destruction. I mean, some of the bodies of his victims are right here. And all the shadows he's destroyed at the New World. Who knows how many have been robbed of the hope that we have to be whole again, to leave this place. We say yes. Yang flips it on us and implies that he should be the one destroying his other self, being us. Yang grabs the music box from us and begins turning the handle, draining both our ego levels. As we both visibly feel the effects of the awful sound, Yang begins to fall apart. We do not. But he keeps turning the handle. As the noise becomes too much for Yang to bear, and we ourselves come closer to death than ever before, Yang falls apart, dies, and the noise stops. He thought that his ego level would be greater than ours. He was wrong. Yang, now gone, drops a note written by his better personality, Shen, telling us that he wished for us to surpass him. He failed to open the floodgate, and he could not go on living in this world. Shen notes that the key to the path that leads to the floodgate is with Juice. He mentions that he's sure that something needs to be done before the opening of the floodgate, but he never figured out what. I bet it has something to do with this Juice. Who is here? Juice, a female machine heavily modified by Yang, with parts from much of the lost female machine population welded to her body, making her the ultimate milky fuel production machine. Being locked in this room for however long, she had believed that she was alone in this world. She refuels us, almost as if out of pure reflex. When asking for the key, like a child, she says that we can't have it just because we want it, giggling to herself. Man, what the fuck? Everyone begins to feel the effects of Yang's absence. Michio's shadow tells us that, as Yang, we protected her, but now we will unintentionally kill her. Though unintentional, it's still cruel. Raiko's shadow wants to stay. She considers this place her home. Shan's shadow describes herself as an existence of the past, but now the past is over, and she has no place. Psyche describes herself as just a desired being, but the one who desired her, Yang, is now gone. By him being gone, she has no purpose. This part of the experience left me deeply disturbed, feeling as if I'd done everything wrong. The Lady Shadows have repeatedly expressed their disdain for what I've been doing. All they wanted was to keep on existing here. But now that we've essentially replaced Yang, whose existence is significant to this world, we have denied them their wishes, and now they're gone. But like I said before, there's no direction to go but forward. So we need that damn key from Juice, but Juice won't hand it over, and she doesn't mention it when we speak to her. She only expresses her extreme discomfort with her condition in various ways, including asking us to tear all the modifications from her body, just so she can move. But we can't help her. We don't know how to help her. There is an entity that has the information we need. There's an item that we need to bring to the entity, and we need to become strong enough to catch the entity. The entity is a frog. Yes, a frog. One that apparently can speak, referred to as some sort of legendary guardian. We learned this from speaking to Gimnon, who I think mistakes the guardian frog with the bait needed to catch him. Either way, he gives us the fishing information for the bait. A frog called a Suihu, or Suihao. The item we need to bring to the Guardian is a stone. Just an ordinary stone. We learn about the stone from speaking to Lady Chiyo, who gives us a key to a drawer in Bem's old room at the Seiryu. Hassan's room before he disappeared. There are two things in the drawer: a gold bracelet and Bem's dream diary, in which he expresses the sorrow brought on by his skin condition and how no one will touch him anymore. We give the bracelet to Juice, and she accepts it with joy and puts it on right away. The most excitement we've seen from her. We visit Bem at the Eco Clinic, and he begs us to touch him, and so we grant him his wish, making him feel normal again. He thanks us and gives us Doku's rattle before he's gone. He got his wish, and that was enough for him. We visit Doku next door and hand them their rattle. They ask about their old friend, Ta-san, and we inform them that, like his fellow factory workers, he's gone now. Doku then decides that if Ta-san's gone, then they should go too. They hand us the key to Lee's drawer before we visit Lou. Viz has requested us to play her his score, her favorite music, and so we do that for him. Lou thanks us and gives us her very own score before. Damn it. We tell Viz what happened, and
Who said that? I see.
he leaves behind one of the parts we need to upgrade ourselves to catch the Guardian Frog. And that's it. That's 1 out of 4 parts. The key Doku gave us opens this top drawer in Lee's fuel station. In it, we find the ordinary stone. We tell Chiyo that we found the ordinary stone, and she reveals that the stone was once powerful and can still regain its power. Chiyo also gives us another part that we need for the upgrade. That's 2 out of 4 parts. The third part is beyond this locked door in the lighthouse. A pleasant conversation with Guattari leads him to giving us his score and informing us that it's the key to this door. In this room, we find another part for the upgrade, among other useful items. That's 3 out of 4 parts. The final part we need for the upgrade, we can actually just buy from Torlop at his junk shop. It's the last item on the list. You gotta be fucking kidding me. After a few hours of fishing and trading to get our money up, we finally have enough stamps to buy the final upgrade part. And now we're broke again. Such is life. Now, it won't be Moriwaki who's upgrading us. We've actually maxed out in terms of what he's capable of doing for us. And so he recommends that we go see Lau, who has actually secluded himself far behind the Fukuju apartment. We open his door with a key that we found in Tassan's empty room and approach the mechanic. At first he tells us to leave him be, but then he takes a good look at us, sees the upgrades already made to our body, and asks if we are willing to go even further beyond. And if we're gonna catch this legendary talking guardian frog, we're gonna have to. It's done. We are now the finest machine this world has ever seen, no exaggeration. Lau hands us fishing information for a frog we are now able to catch. The legendary talking guardian frog named Wang Shui. First, we need to fish for the bait, the Suihao Gimnan told us about, using frogs to catch a frog. One won't be enough. We're gonna need a few of them, because if we screw around while fishing this powerful frog, we could lose the bait. Now, the fishing information for Wang Shui says that he prefers wide open spaces, just like the Suihao. But we're getting no bites here. This is the ultimate frog we're talking about, so it must be in the ultimate wide open space, which is in Guattari's backyard. Well, let's get to it. We get a bite, and the frog health meter is filled to the brim for the first time, and we can't fuck around here. When fishing, not only could we lose the bait, but we can also lose the hook needed to catch our target, making this a much longer process. And after the ultimate tug of war, Wang Shui is caught for the first time. He gives us the only thing he has to reward us, the memory of the stone. The memory of the stone combines with the ordinary stone to create the resurrection stone. Wang Shui is surprised that we brought the ordinary stone and tells us that the stone represents the will to keep dreaming, describing this world as the dream. Having the resurrection stone makes us invincible. It unbinds us from the rules of this world. As long as we have it, we'll no longer need to maintain our fuel or ego levels. If this world is like a dream, then having the resurrection stone renders it lucid. Like having the stone reminds us that none of this is real, the rules don't matter. Wang Shui leaves to think and tells us to come again. Yes, we have to catch this guy multiple times. All the more reason why we shouldn't screw around and lose any of the bait or hooks. The second time around, he gives us notes written by Yang about the outside world. These notes come from the same place as the memory of the stone. Wang Shui calls Yang a selfish jerk for using him. He wants us to read the notes and then come again. I'm gonna be honest. Reading the notes written by Yang, I can't really understand what he's rambling about. What I can understand is that these notes are not from his time in this world. He mentions a woman that he unwillingly killed, and he expresses his regrets. Before, we learned that Yang considered this world made for juice. Maybe this world was created to preserve the memory of this woman, who is juice in this world. This world that has been constantly referred to as the past. A fixed point in the past. On the third catch, Wang Shui deems us ready for him to restart the time that he has stopped, an irreversible action. And we decide not to stay, but to move forward, like we've always done. and Wang Shui starts the clock again. Something has changed inside my mind just now, as if a part of my memory has suddenly been released. Why do I feel so insecure? Is the first thing Guattari says to us. He asks us to check on Koppel and Juice. Juice's ego level is increasing, getting back to the level it was before she was modified by Yang. Juice screams in pain, and the room shakes. She resents her position here. She hates that she cannot move. She wonders why she's being punished, wonders if she'll be like this forever. She calls out for Medici, Guattari, Ein, and Koppel. Medici, the machine we saw leave Lu's room. He explained how he took part in the modification of Juice, and during the process, she would leech ego from him, making him feel a sense of joy that would make him want to surrender himself to her. He says that we've been marked by a terrible girl. Guattari speaks about how Juice's ego seemed to be limitless, and how sure he was that Juice would never fall apart. Modifying her body was not just to maintain this world, it was also to decrease her ego level, to avoid her being crushed by it, which I think is what's happening now. Ein tells us that Yang was afraid of Juice. Juice was the undesired existence, while Psyche was the desired existence, the more perfect embodiment of the woman he wished to remember. Ein also confirms that Juice's modification was not to produce milky fuel, but to contain her power in addition to having her produce sewage. I mean, why would Yang, in the way that we know him, care about everybody else running out of fuel? Koppel shows us a photo of Juice before she was modified. Looking at the photo himself, he sees her as her adorable self, not the monster she's been made to be today. Just seeing this photo, he says that he can die happy. He hands us the photo and he dies happy. Looking at the photo, Juice looks very normal, uncorrupted by Yang's fear of her. We show Juice the photograph of her old self. She then begs us not to hate her. Juice breaks our resurrection stone and then calls for us, the same way she did the laboratory staff. And then she herself plays the noise score until we are drained of all of our ego. But we don't die. We now traverse through darkness until we come upon Psyche, who speaks in broken sentences. She tries to hand us something, but it rips before it reaches us. We approach Chen, Medici, Gonbe, Honda, Ein. Each interaction is like a dream, where you reach out but you can't grab what's in front of you. We're delirious, but we wake up. Juice.
We meet at last.
She's returned to her original form, pre-modification. But how is this possible? Is this still a dream? Juice asks us if she can still keep the key to the floodgate until the time comes. She wants to spend the time we have left learning about each other. As before, we never really held an actual conversation. She asks us to get her a silver tray stand so that she can eat with her hands for the first time since she was modified. So we do. And Yashibe delivers the stand to Juice. When we return, Juice tells us that Yashibe couldn't see her when he delivered the stand, confirming that Juice is only visible to us. And so, we hang out with Juice for a while, as she shares her thoughts and tells stories about the other machines in town, talking about how she doesn't like this world, but she doesn't hate it, because after all, it is a world that we, Yang, made. How Psyche knew everything about this world, but knew nothing about herself. Which makes sense because she never once mentioned Juice to us. She talks about how she's gonna overflow? There's something wrong. Something inside Juice that's not her is trying to get out. Juice says that another version of herself is looking for a sound, a melody she once heard, and we're given the option to play a score for her. We play the sheep song. It's not this one. We play our own score. She's heard this one before, but it's still not the one she's looking for. We parse through the other scores until we get to, that's right, Lou's score, the one she gave us just before she disappeared. This is the one. Juice calls it her melody. But that can't be. We tell her that it's by a machine named Lou, and this confuses her. She asks us to play it again. She remembers. She says Juice and her used to be one, but split into two. In this moment, she's speaking as Lou, the other version of herself. I get it. Juice is just like us, just like Yang, only just now developing a second personality within herself, Lou. But we know that Lou was once a machine living at the ego clinic, which must mean that Juice is so powerful that she's able to manifest the personalities of her alter ego, Lou being that alter ego. Juice, or Lou, recalls that she hid a diary in the sewage canal and requests that we bring it to her. But something is happening. Hajime, he recalls his body, a soft body, in a world where everyone had soft bodies. A little soft thing would call him Grandpa. He recalls being something called a Grandpa. He would use two long sticks to walk. The little soft thing would say, "Grandpa, don't go." As he moved, the world got brighter until it was all white, and then he ended up here. Strange things happen, don't they? Honda. He remembers a place like his factory here, but there were no tracks, and he looked completely different, and he was making something he didn't want to make. He was suffering, but had a reason to keep working. Whatever that reason was, it had ruined everything for him. The things that he would make, he deemed to be trash. He kept making more and more trash until he was eventually buried by it all. Everyone in town has regained memories from a past life, and while they speak extremely abstractly, I believe they're all remembering their own deaths. Hajime, an old man who died of his old age. Honda, a factory worker who died in a machine accident. Enusan, drowned. Suru died of sadness. Chio froze traveling through a tundra. Lao was killed by his abuser. Takashi, a gambling addict, was killed by his loan sharks. Okay, so maybe that last one was a reach, but hell, maybe all of these are reaches, but figuring out their stories is like cracking a cipher. They will all ask for items. We get those items from others after hearing about their memories. I believe these items must be their own core memory items, like our sneakers, but they're just items now, as everyone's shadows are already long gone. The only one remaining in this entire world is our own. The diary that Lou, has requested us to find for her is behind this plank blocking our path. We cut it down using a broken bottle fragment we received from Ganbei for returning his core memory item, and we find the diary, in which Lou documented a dream where she held a brown fluffy thing with a bell around its neck, called Bon-chan. Returning the diary to Juice, she requests that we find Bon-chan's bell in her old room. Lou's old room. Her old room. In the drawer, we don't just find Bon-chan's bell. We find Bon-chan. This is Lou's core memory item. We return the bear to their owner. Juice then begins to remember. She was shunned, hated by her people. They threw garbage into her, bad emotions, scorn, exiled and forced into running and hiding until she was found by new people. And among those new people was us, Yang. We were the only person who ever expressed love towards her when she could only imagine us hating her as all else did before. She asked us if we wanted to throw garbage into her too. We told her, "You're not a garbage can." But things did not remain so romantic, as all she ever knew was people's hatred towards her. Our comment threw her off. She asked again if we wanted to throw garbage into her. This upset us, and we ended up doing just that, projecting negative emotions at her. Juice thought that people hating her made them happy, and she wanted people to be happy. Juice probably died because of our continuous violence towards her. Corroborated by Yang's notes from the outside world, documenting regret for what happened, saying,
"At first I couldn't understand at all why she desired my violence, but now I think I understand why she had to drive herself into such a dreadful situation. I think she never intended to put herself into a corner. She just accepted as a given that the world is a more dreadful place. It's very possible that seeking violence from me was the only communication means she could choose."
Juice and Psyche are both names given to Yang's perceptions of the woman he loved, whose real name is Lu, who more fits the girl depicted in the memories we were just told of. A girl shunned, who felt better alone, secluded below town in the sewage canal, who allowed people to mistreat her, like in the scene I refrained from showing you all. Lu, who was never mentioned by Yang, because he hated that version of her, who cared nothing for herself. She asks us to call her by her true name, not Juice, not Psyche, only Lu. So we do that. Lu appears.
I passed away before you, but I didn't mean to. I'm sorry I could not do it well. But don't think we have failed, because there is no failure.
She doesn't express any regrets for meeting us. She remembers the good times, when we would sit in a grassy field and sing melodies to each other. Melodies that ended up as our music scores in this world. She is okay now. Now that we fully understand each other. She bids us farewell and leaves us the key to the path leading to the floodgate. And so we go. To finally achieve what we've been moving towards this entire time. We finally reach the floodgate. Opening it and draining the area reveals the obstructed track, leading to our way out of here. I hope. We finally make it to the imprinting stone cave, and sitting at the end of the track is our shadow, who when we approach, stands and reaches out for our hand. Let's end this. And we awake in a grassy field on an overcast day. It's peaceful. The same grassy field we once sat with Lou and whistled our melodies. But what the hell has happened? What was all that we've just experienced? Was it an alternate dimension? A sort of purgatory for people who have died? What was with that strange machine in the beginning and the voice talking to us? Was this all some sort of experiment? Some type of simulation? Or maybe this was all just a... Garage Bad Dream Adventure is the strangest game I have ever played, an experience with a very unique way of telling a story, and it has me interested to find more bizarre projects with unconventional styles, artwork, and methods of telling their narratives. And maybe you now feel this way after all of this craziness. I've left so much detail and nuance out of this video, if you can even believe that. And there are multiple endings, and some, if not most of my interpretations, might be wrong or misguided. The game is linked in the description for you to experience this fever dream for yourself. Thank you all for joining me, and until the next thing, we're done here.